Hey everyone, what you see here is a game that I've been vibe coding over the past couple of days. I've included not one, but two characters, as you can see here. So this is the melee character. And then as part of it, I also vibe coded an entire level editor that allows me to place items within the scene, move them around so that I can get my game looking the way that I want. And this is the current final result that you see over here just 3 days in. So in today's video, I will show you my exact process that I've taken to get to this stage, starting from the original idea that I had, going to how you can get hold of assets, picking the game engine of your choice, and then as I dive deeper, I'll give you the exact prompts that I took to integrate the assets into the game, build the first prototype, and then how I iterated upon it to add a second character, polish and special effects, as well as building my very own level editor as I showed you earlier. If you've ever wanted to build a game, now is the best time to do it. And I'll tell you why. The Cursor vibejam 2026 is now running, and there's a total of $35,000 in cash prizes, with the first place getting a whopping $20,000 on its own. It's just blowing up all over Twitter right now. Just look at the kind of games that people are vibe coding in just a short amount of time. And this is why you should get started today. Do not wait. It's not about the prize money. It's all about fulfilling that dream that you've always had of building a game. And thanks to the power of AI, building a game like this is easier than ever. I've been building this in just little pockets of time that I've had, and it's already gotten to quite a good stage. And to help you get started, I built a vibejam starter pack. What you get is 4 complete starter projects for you to get inspiration or to build upon, as well as 6 battle-tested agent skills. I will give you everything that you need to build, whether it's a 3D game, whether it's a 2D game, whether you want it to be on the desktop, on the web, or whether you want it to run on mobile as well. Many people have been able to get value out of it as well. Head on over to the link in the description below and get hold of this starter pack for yourself today. And if you want to take things further, I have launched gamedev.com. This is my complete AI game dev toolkit. It contains everything related to vibe coding that you ever need to know about. What it includes are a whole collection of agent skills specialized in game development. It also includes a whole suite of projects that are exclusive to members only. This includes not just the skills, but also the complete source code, the plans, the prompts, and everything that was done in order to get to the final stage. I also publish a lot of guides and playbooks sharing all of these tips and tricks and lessons learned for members so that you don't make the same mistakes as I do and you can get started on your vibe coding journey much quicker. Head on over to gamedev.com, link is in the description below. And without further ado, let's get started with today's tutorial so that we can see how we managed to get from start to finish with this game that you see over here. All right, so let's get started with today's tutorial. I'm only 3 days in and there's a couple more things to do, but it's already looking pretty good. I have a pretty decent looking level, and I have a character that we can see over here, and I've got all these debug controls, and I'll be showing you everything that I did to get to this stage. All right, and just a very quick thing, what I'm going to go through very quickly is if you are starting from zero, so you have no game idea, and you have no idea how to download assets, you have no idea what Claude Code is, then you probably want to listen through the next couple of minutes. But if you really know what game you want to do, where to get assets, and you really know which AI tool you're using, just jump straight to step 5, because that's where I actually go through the process and the exact prompts that I took from getting from this to this, as well as show you how I got to this tilemap editor. All right, so the first thing that you should do whenever you're working on a game is to figure out your game idea, and don't spend too long on this. This is a game jam, and even though you have 30 days, trust me, more people spend time figuring out the perfect game and then actually working on it, and that usually is what stops them from even participating. The whole goal is to get something up and running in your first hour, okay? So if you spend more than 5, 10, 15 minutes on your game idea, you're going to have a really big problem, okay? So here's my tip for you. Just keep it very simple. Think of a simple one-liner. So it could be this game, but with something else. So for example, in this case, I just said I want it to be like Super Crate Box, but with ninjas. Okay, and if you are not familiar with Super Crate Box, this is a really great arcade game. It's really simple. It's a game by Valambia, and I used to play it a lot. And it's very simple, right? Like you just have a single character, enemies come down from the top, and you just need to blast the enemies and last as long through the waves as you can. And you just pick up some boxes and it changes your weapons. And that's pretty much what this game is about. So I would highly suggest that you just keep the scope down. I've been building games for almost 20 years now. And the biggest trap that people fall into is that they just think too big. Keep it very simple. Games are always iterative. You will get to your dream game. But if this is your first time building games or you're still relatively new to this, you need to avoid the trap, which is do not build too complicated a game. Just keep it simple, all right? So I would suggest you keep it a single player, at least at first. keep it to a single screen. So everything should happen on just a single screen, and you should be targeting your desktop and web first. And for this vibejam, this is a requirement. This must be accessible on the web, free to play, no login or sign up. Okay, so ideally, so this is the best way that you can do it. Just target it for desktop. Don't try to think about mobile controls. Don't try to think about AR, VR, and all that kind of stuff unless you've done it before. For a game jam, if this is your first time, just keep it simple. Okay. Now, the second thing that you want to do is you want to be inspired. Now you've got a thought process of the kind of game that you want. The hardest thing that most game developers get into, if you are not already an artist, is just about getting your game art assets. And the main reason why you want to browse through game assets, because these are done by experts and they've already set the sprites, the characters, the environments in a way that is consistent and can already be integrated into your game engine, which I'll talk about shortly. And like I said, I always believe in keeping things simple, okay? You just have to decide the big ticket items. So is it a 2D game or is it a 3D game? And if it's 2D, is it pixel art or do you want something more high res or vector? And if it's a 3D game, do you want it to be low poly, voxels, or do you want it to be high poly? And that's all you really need to think about when you're thinking about your game assets. Remember, this is a game jam. The whole point is not about building a game that you think, oh, I'm going to ship it, I'm going to make millions of dollars. No, the whole point of game jam is to get practice in building games. And thanks to vibe coding, this is definitely doable. In fact, like most game jams before the vibe coding era were all done with 24 hours. Now you have a whole month and you have AI. There's really no excuse to not be building a game this month. And I would highly encourage you to go to just itch.io. Just search for, once you've decided your big ticket items, just search for those tags, right? If you want it to be 2D, you want it to be top down, you want characters, you want particular styles. This is the fastest way for you to get inspired as well as to get going on your game as fast as possible. All right. So if I go through here, you can see there's just so much stuff that's just really high quality and ready for you to integrate within your game. All right. So the art that you can see here that I've used is I bought it from an asset pack. And this is by Matt's Art, and it includes all of the different assets as well as the environment that I'm using. So this is a really good starting point. I like to find things that are made by the same artist because it ensures that they're all consistent. If you don't want to purchase anything, there's just tons of free stuff over here. In fact, if you actually just scroll down, look at this samurai. All right, I believe that this samurai is actually free. It's a name your own price asset. So you can actually download it completely free. And you don't have to pay a single cent. You can just go through here and say you want it to be free, and then you will only get free assets. So money should never be a barrier towards you building your game. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to give you enough inspiration for you to go ahead and build what you want. And one thing that you want to make sure when you're using any of this is that look at the commercial agreements, all right? Like some of them might say that you can't use this for any AI generated stuff. So you want to steer clear of that. But otherwise, these assets that I've been using are completely fine to use in personal or commercial projects. So if you're an itch.io and you like something like this one by Tiny Slots, which is something I used before, look at how high quality it is. Just click add to collection so that you can take a look at it and download it later. If you know that it's something that you want, so you can go here. This one is free, but you can choose to pay amount, but otherwise you can just click on no thanks, just take me to the downloads, click on this, and then you get hold of the downloads for your assets that are ready to go. I'll show you how to integrate it into your game later. But the next thing that you need to think about is which game engine you want to use. And like I said, the whole point of game jams is to just keep it simple. If you're building something in 2D, use Phaser. Don't look anywhere else, just use Phaser. If you're doing anything in 3D, just use Three.js. And I already mentioned it before, if you really want to just get started and get going, head on over and get hold of the vibejam starter pack that I have over here. And it's also, the link is in the description below. It already comes with the skills that you need that works with Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, and basically any agentic programming environment that you want. And it already includes a Three.js and Phaser skill as part of it. And once you have these things, you will avoid a lot of the bugs and gotchas that often comes when you're using these things. Because don't forget, no matter how good a model is, there's always a cutoff on its knowledge. For example, this game that I built here is actually built using Phaser 4, right? Which is the latest version. And I basically used a skill to ensure that I'm making the best practices of Phaser 4, which is fairly new release. All right. Okay. So get hold of the asset pack. Now, the next thing is to pick your AI tool. Pick any one that you prefer. There's no better or worse when it comes to a game jam. And it's more important to use something that you're already familiar with. A simple way to think about it is that if you already have ChatGPT, just download the Codex app. If you prefer an IDE, use Cursor. If you're already familiar with Claude Code, just use Claude Code. And if you're price conscious, use Antigravity because it's free to get started and it has fairly generous limits for you to be able to make use. And like I said, everything that you see in the starter pack will work with this AI tool as well. Okay, so now that's done. Let's now go into how I went about building this game over here. Okay. All right, so now that you've already got your assets, I will always suggest that you put your assets into public/assets. So let me just pull up Visual Studio Code over here. You can see I just put it into public, and then I put it into assets, and then I just put the different assets in based on what I downloaded off itch.io. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to do any cleanup or whatever. Just put them in by folder, okay? And what we're going to do, first of all, is to create something called an index.json. And this index.json is really important, and I always encourage you to do this as your very first step. I'm going to pull up my Codex app over here. I just prompted it and I said, assets have been added to public assets. And then what I did is I just copy and pasted the description from here because it gives a lot of useful information about the number of frames, the sprite size, and the canvas size. But don't worry if you don't have this information because not all assets come along with this. What you can do is actually just ask your AI to do it. So I'll just show it to you over here. Create an index.json that references the relevant sprites, sprite sheets, frames, frame sizes, etc. so that we have a good canonical representation for importing into a phaser game. All right, and this works for 2D and 3D as well. Your AI agent will effectively go through all of the assets and try to infer which ones of these are animation sprite sheets, what are the frame sizes, which of these are tile maps. All right, so once this is done, you will see that it has created the index.json. It basically gives you a canonical asset representation for all of these things so that it can be imported into Phaser. And let me quickly explain to you the reason for this. You can see here, what it does is that it actually looks through, it knows where the different paths to the different things are, it knows the height and the width, the different frame sizes and everything that's related to the animation assets. Now, the reason why you want to do this is that you have a very context-optimized way for your AI agent to know where to bring in the different assets as it goes along. Otherwise, what it will have to do without sufficient context is that it'll always have to look through the public folder, parse it, go through all the different subfolders, and then try to figure out what asset is what. And if you ever refresh the context or clear the context, you have to do this over and over again. Having this single file, it's only like 400 lines, basically ensures that you get the exact correct dimensions and all of your assets working every single time. So with that done, you would have your index.json. So that's your starting point. Now, the next thing that you want to do is just focus on your basic movement and getting a single character in. And the way I like to do it is to focus on usually the following animations. So you want to have idle, walk or run, jump, and attack. And that's all you need to do. And you also want to take this opportunity to ask the AI to put debug features. And I'll show you what it means very shortly. But this is the prompt that I use. I said, implement a gym level. So a gym level looks something like this. It basically puts a lot of basic elements that's required to ensure that your overall character movement is working correctly. You can run, you can jump, you can attack, and it ensures that the measurements are done correctly as well. Okay, so you just say, I want to implement a gym level, do idle, run, jump, attack. And in this case, because we are dealing with arrow attacks, I said, don't need to spawn an arrow yet, just play the animation, and I'll tell you why later. All right. And I said, make it look like a gym level with debug-like features. All right, so you can see here within Codex, I said, use the phaser for game dev skill. So this is a skill that I did in order to ensure that it uses the best practices from Phaser 4 to implement the gym level. And you can see the rest of the prompt is pretty much the same. All right, so once this is done, you can see this is the end result. All right, and this is really pretty decent. You see, I can toggle off the debug elements. I can run, I can jump, I can play attack. And the main thing here is that you've really gotten, I would say, 50 to 60% of the way towards the game because you already have the main elements that make this right. Why you want to have debug overlays is because this will allow you to pinpoint errors that you might see over here. So for example, you will see that no matter how high I jump, I'm never going to be able to reach this platform. You can see based on the bounding box over here that the character is not quite standing on the ground. And so that's just a bunch of things that you can go ahead and fix and just iterate along. Now, and that's stuff that you can very easily fix because everything else is been laid out and you have the debug information to show you what's going on. So that's the reason why you want to have debug information, because otherwise you'll be wondering like, why in the world is he floating above? And the reason is that you can see here that the bounding box that it calculated was wrong. Okay, so this is where you want to get to. You want to get basic movement and debug features into a gym. Now, the next thing you want to do, once you fix up the stuff, making sure that the feel looks right, the jump doesn't feel sluggish, the animations are playing correctly. So in this case, you want to focus on the basic loop and the mechanics, and it should always be a one-liner. So in this case, I said, the player can shoot arrows and the arrows can hit the targets. And so the prompt that I use here is, let's just implement attack by shooting arrows. It needs to take into consideration the animation frame that releases the arrow, and then it needs to spawn an arrow. And I'll explain to you what this means over here. So if you look into my assets for the archer, you will notice that the arrow that you see over here is completely different object compared to what is actually within the animation. So I need to make sure that when the arrow is spawned, it's actually at this frame or this frame. It shouldn't be spawned too early. Otherwise, it looks like you have two arrows. So that's what that prompt was meant to fix. So you can see here, right now in this version, the arrows do not spawn. And then in this updated version that we have over here, where everything is working correctly, you can see that when I shoot it, the arrows do spawn. And then after that, all I just said is add some targets to practice shooting, and we can have auto aim when an enemy is within range. Now, this is completely optional. It's just something that I know, having worked on several of these games before, is that when you shoot an arrow like this, if it doesn't have some form of auto aim, it can be very unforgiving. So you can see over here, now with this debug view, you can see exactly who is within my target. So it knows if it needs to auto aim and hit a target, the player is not penalized, because you want this game to be fun. You don't want this to be a arrow simulator. And this is pretty much a working game with a core game loop that you can build upon. You can say, for example, you can say, the game is to destroy a fixed number of targets within a set amount of time before it gets game over. And that's the main thing that you want to get to. You want to get the core game loop running, because at this point, this is what I like to call the foundation of the game. Now, this is where it gets really fun. I like to call this stage, back where I work, we used to call this stage the finding the fun stage, okay? Because this is where you have the solid foundation. Now it's time to make the game even more interesting. So you can see what I did here is that I added a new level, I added a new character, and I extended the mechanics, right? And you can see, because you have firm foundation, you'll be able to get pretty much all the features in 1 or 2 shots with very minor alterations from this point onwards. So you can see here, right? I can say, use the gamedev asset skill, phaser skill, and the phaser 4 skill. Let's get an alternate player character in, and this will be Samurai 3. Focus again on the same set of animations. All right, and I'm just going to jump to the end result that you can see over here. This is the alternate character, and you can see I was already pretty much able to reuse the functionality that was already there that allowed me to have the game. And then after that, I just said I wanted to have melee attack as well as the range attack, and it was able to do it as well. As part of this, I also said to create a main menu system so that it allowed me to go between the gym level as well as the main level and allow me to select a character as well. So this is like the stage where you start to iterate upon your foundations to make it fun. Let me just show you something that's a little bit more complicated as part of this finding the fun. Now, if you recall, this is just a single attack, right? Say if I'm spamming the Z key right now and all it does is a single attack. But what I did is that I want a combo system such that attack 2 can only come if attack 1 connects and attack 3 can only occur if attack 2 does. So let me just show it to you right here, right? 1, 2, 3. Can you see that? All right, it's 1, 2, 3. So that's a combo system that you see right over here. And that's effectively what I mean by finding your fun. This is where you can start to be creative around how the game feels. Because previously it was just like doing this single slash, whereas now you can have a series of combos so that you have a much nicer looking game and it feels great as well. So this is where you can be creative. You can ask it to do like double jump. You can ask it to, I don't know, do combos with the range combat. There's so many different things that you can do. But this is the area where basically the game starts to come to life. There's no way you would have been able to one-shot it to this stage without making lots of mistakes. The whole point is to get to a foundation and then to iterate. All right. So the next thing that you want to do, and this is really important, especially when you want the game to feel fun. So it can be fun, but you need to communicate this to your players. And this is called the add some juice stage. All right. And this is very simple. All you need to do is just add some screen shake, some effects, and time freezes. So screen shakes are very easy to understand. Time freezes is the thing that is very subtle that a lot of people miss, that people use a lot in game dev. And let me just show you what this does. So if you compare how this looks over here, so I'm going to slash it, all right? Looks pretty nice, but let's compare it to this one over here. The difference is very subtle, but the main thing is not the screen shake. The main thing is actually that every time the player connects with the target, there is actually a small split second of freeze where the game actually pauses. And this gives the sense of an impact when the attack is landing. This is a trick that is used by game developers all over, and you don't notice it if you don't think about it, right? You can look over here, it's the exact same animations, but it just doesn't feel as punchy as when you have that little pause when the thing connects. So this is called juice, and there are a lot of different tricks of how you can get this juicy. I just did a couple here, which are the screen shakes and the time freeze, and it's already feeling a lot better. There's a lot of other things that you can do, such as particle effects, shaders. And so if you want to learn more about it, let me know in the comments, because I'll be very happy to think about how to fold those kind of polish into a game to make it really feel good. All right, so that's basically it. Once you get to this stage, you would actually have a very fun and decent game, right? Like I said, like you already have the core mechanics for you to build a game. It could be destroy all the targets within an amount of time. My goal is to make it more like Super Crate Box, where you have enemies coming in and you can attack them. And I'm thinking of making it multiplayer as well. But this is where you want to be. I got to this stage in just like a day or two, and it was just basically pockets of time that I had, and you don't need a lot to get to this stage. And I'm sharing everything with you so that you can replicate this for yourself, including the starter pack. All right, so now the final thing you want to do is that how do you get your bat levels looking like this compared to what you see over here? You want to get your levels looking a lot better with environments and nice effects. Now, this is the thing where I've learned and I'm sharing with you today. So don't miss it. The main thing that you want to do is that you want to set up your own tooling when it comes to your games. Now, previously, when you're working in game development, you probably want to use an off-the-shelf tool because for you to build your own tools, it's going to take time and it's going to cost you money. And off-the-shelf tools are oftentimes very robust, but the problem with them is that they are not tailored to your specific game. So you have to study those tools, understand how to put your assets into a format that those tools understand, and then you can be able to make use of those tools. But in the age of AI, this is the real unlock here, right? This is the secret sauce. Build your own level editor. I've seen this all over X from everybody. Don't try to get the AI to build levels for you. It's still not great in this respect, especially when it comes to 2D games. It does a lot better with 3D games, but for 2D games, always build your own level editor. You will see that in my asset pack, I have this preview of what the tile set can look like. And this is what a tile set looks like, right? Allows you to basically place elements and it gives you some pre-made examples so that you can construct a level out of these little parts. And you can see, I vibe coded my very own editor that you can see over here. So if I want to place this element over here, I can place it here. If I want to place this one here, I can do it like that. All right. And the great thing about this is that this was vibe coded, tailor-made for my use case. So for example, like I click here and I don't want to open the big picker anymore. I can just click over here and this works for me. It's just suited to my workflow and it's just much better. And with AI, this was just vibe coded in just one prompt with a couple of small iterations to tailor it to how I want my level editor to work. I don't want it to be overly complicated. I just want it to work for me. And this is what you want to do. So this you can see, I just said, this is the first prompt that I use. I just said, I want to use the tiles in that tile set. And I want it to be for desktop. So make sure I can use my mouse because sometimes it tries to create like an in-game editor and then you have to use your keyboard to place things around. It's just really hard to use. So just say if it's on the desktop, it's meant to be out of the game. It's meant to make use of the mouse and hotkeys. It's always much better. And once you've done that, you can again go on and build more things in your level editor. For example, after I built this, I just pretty much said, I would like to be able to put props into my level as well. And you can see over here, right? So it just loaded all the props that I have. It knows which things are animated because I have the assets.json. And then I can just place them anywhere. I say, I want to be able to hold shift to snap. So you can see this is like going to snap to the grid. And then if I don't, I can just position it in between grid elements if I want. And this just works very well, right? Because this is a level editor. This is vibe coded in a couple of minutes and it just suits my game perfectly. I don't need to think about how to understand how to use external tools. And this has just allowed me to create the level that you see over here. And I'm just going to jump in. You can see this is exactly what you saw in the level editor. All right, so that basically is the final step that has taken me to where I am today. And as you can see here, it's really shaping up very well. There's a lot of additional things that I want to do, such as adding sound, potentially adding in multiplayer, adding in enemies, but it's already in a shape that is really cool. And I've been posting my journey on X, and there's been a lot of good responses already. And I'm hoping that today's video has given you the motivation, inspiration, and ideas, as well as the tools for you to go ahead and take part in this year's vibejam. I really hope you enjoyed today's video and found it useful. Give it a like if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on notifications so that you always be the first to know when new content like this drops. Now in this video, I showed you how to make use of external assets, but if you're interested in building and vibe coding your own assets for your games, check out my last video where I showed you how you can go about creating sprites for your games in a specific style. All right, so till next time, I'll be seeing you.